Welcome to another Tech Tuesday session. I'm Jeff Garrell, and today with me is Jeff Joyner. We're doing a kind of inaugural episode of something we may be calling Beverages and Bytes. It's more of a conversation than just this mug talking to you directly with no other insights. Hope to do this on a regular basis with even more people. Keep the conversation going. Kind of came from an idea of being able to sit around, having a beverage, talking about nerdy stuff like we used to do before all this happened. Now we're going to record it for posterity. So today, again, I've got Jeff Joyner here. It's just the two of us, but again, I hope we get 3, 4, 8, 10. Who knows how this will grow for any given topic. Jeff is our senior network architect. He's been in the business for 25 or more years. Don't want to give away your age.
I want to say probably I guess 30 at this point.
Pushing 30, yeah. Me too. But today's topic is interesting. We actually got a good story behind it. It is about the strangely named, but still pretty awesome, Aruba User Experience Insight Sensor.
Okay, the old name Cape Sensor was probably a little bit easier to say.
Yeah, Cape Sensor. It's Aruba acquired Cape or Cape Sensors. I don't know what their actual name was, but a few years ago, and have, as they do, taken it and made it even more special. But really, that's why Jeff's here. Jeff, tell us about the Cape Sensor, its uses, its capabilities.
Yeah. So the Cape Sensor was born out of a company called Cape Networks, which was acquired by HPE Aruba a few years ago, like Jeff was saying. They're originally out of South Africa, which is where they got their name.
There you go.
The sensor itself, which I don't have one right here to show you, but the sensor actually has an external power supply to be able to power up if you don't have PoE, but can also power up off of PoE. It has a one wired Ethernet connection, and then it has 2 built-in radios, Wi-Fi radios, 2.4 and 5. And what it does is it allows you to be able to monitor network stats for the local network wherever this thing is placed, and be able to report that back to a cloud interface that is hosted at Aruba. And so it can measure Wi-Fi on the 2.4 and the 5, wired connections, and it reports this back up to the cloud, regardless of whether or not you have a stable network connection, because it has built-in cell service as well. And that's part of it's a subscription model. So where you own the sensor, I guess to be able to use it, you still have to have that subscription to Aruba. But that subscription allows you that cloud GUI or console to be able to look at all of the all the sensors that you may have acquired and have put out in the field. And like I said, if whether it doesn't matter whether you're connected to the network or not, that cell connection can report those statistics for your network back up to that cloud console. There also is a battery, a little NiCad battery, that is part of the hardware. And what that does is allows you, in the event of a power outage, whether you've lost PoE or whether whatever your power source is has been lost, it allows that CAPE sensor to report back that last bit of data before it goes offline. So, you're not losing anything until, initially as the power goes off. But I've got the console sitting in front of me here. It tells you, gives you a, it's kind of neat. They have different faces, 3 different faces that they give you as kind of a quick indicator of your network health. There's a green smiley face. Then there's a yellow kind of
face.
Yes, that's kind of cautionary, but it may not mean that it's not critical, but it's not quite 100% happy. But the network health, and that could be because you may have kind of elevated DNS lookup times. You may have had a few packet drops here or there. But it's not at a critical standpoint or critical point. And you can set those alert threshold or those happy, medium, and critical. You can set those thresholds on the sensor as well. So whatever is predetermined or pre-canned on default on the system, you can come back through later on or you can change those settings based on what how you want that to look. And then obviously then it has a red frowny face, which means that things are definitely not good. So and then you can dig a little deeper. So right out of the gate, you can go to your sensor, see that it's green, everything's good. You can go look at the network, the metrics, but everything's healthy. Whereas if you have that frowny face, you can dig a little deeper and find out, okay, what's wrong. But it gives you whether it's DHCP or static, and you can set a static IP address on not just the wired but also the wireless. It tells you if you're doing DHCP, if what the DHCP server its IP address is. It lets you know the IP address that the sensor has acquired, its subnet mask, its default gateway, and primary DNS. Other things that it looks at in the Wi-Fi environment is your signal strength, your RSSI, your bit rate, your receive bit rate, how much throughput you're getting. If you have a frame retry rate, you're going to have frames that are just like on a wired network, you're going to have collisions, and that's part of the TCP/IP protocols. You're going to have corrections. You're going to have to retry certain bits. And so that lets you know if your retry rate is a little high, there's something obviously not right there, something wrong. The channel utilization, so what channel you happen to be on, it reports that, in the 2.4 or the 5. How much channel utilization is there a lot of traffic on that particular channel? Maybe that's an issue, or that is the issue for the Wi-Fi degradation. Let you know your BSSID, your how much association time you've had with the particular AP that you're connected to, and it also shows you in the Wi-Fi environment a lot of other what the sensor is hearing, not just the Wi-Fi network that you're connected to, but also other nearby networks, other nearby APs, and what their signal level is. So maybe you have APs that are a little too close together. My numbers are a little too close as far as signal level. It's not allowing you to you're jumping between APs. You don't have a constant connection.
Right. Or suddenly a rogue AP appears that shouldn't be there, right?
You can see that as well.
Is that another one?
Yes. Because it shows you all the SSIDs out there, so you'll know what your sensor is hearing. If you are if you're experiencing any losses internally or externally, it gives you latency information, packet loss, jitter. There's also you can do the VoIP MOS, which is a combination of that latency, jitter, packet loss, bandwidth. It gives you the MOS score. It lets you know roughly what type of what kind of video quality or audio quality you can expect on that particular network connection, which in today's work from wherever, not in the main office, is great to know where you sit with that video and audio quality. You can also set up other websites to be able to do HTTP gets, to see whether or not, let's say if you have a a console, or some kind of access that you're looking to get to for your line of business, one of your line of business apps. You can test that as well. There's custom settings you can put in there as well. So it's
so that could potentially test both internal apps and maybe your SaaS, your software as a service apps as well, right? This is the experience I'm going to get from this branch office to headquarters on our web-based HR app, for example.
And Aruba is expanding those capabilities. There's obviously there's a need to be able to test and know how not just how your network is going, but I mean how your how your users are able to access these different resources.
Sure.
And
it's a way to validate user complaints, right? Because
exactly.
we all know that we have some of those users that complain when there's not all that much to complain about. And this is a good way to either validate or show that it's got to be something else. It's not the network, since the network always gets blamed first.
Well, and wireless is even harder, because at least with with wired, it's okay, well, we got a bad patch cable, something like that. It's especially if you're not on site, it's hard to know what's in the air, and this helps you get that information.
Especially for those branch offices, right? Those remote locations, those, anywhere where you can't just say, I'm going to walk over down the hall or upstairs and check out what Mary's problem is. Yes.
This becomes an on-site tech, to be able to do those types of testings. And another thing that there's also really neat is you can do a request for a packet capture, and you get a PCAP file that you can load into something like Wireshark, and be able to look at the actual the actual data.
Again, without having to go there, without having to plug in your laptop, without.
Correct.
Nice.
They're great for troubleshooting. Great.
When you were talking about the battery, which, I mean, this isn't really, I guess, much of a feature, but I could envision, again, for those branch offices, when you get the alert that their internet connection is down, or you can't get to it, taking a quick look at the sensor data, or whether the sensor's still reporting to the cloud or not, you could determine that it's power outage, versus it's an internet connection, or it's a different piece of hardware failing, or and I know for us, a lot of times it's like, okay, so in our managed services side, which I've talked about before, you see an external circuit go down, and it's like, okay, is it the circuit? Is it a power outage? Is it, because once you lose visibility to inside that branch,
right,
it's it's a coin flip.
Well, it's a combination with the battery, and but also the the fact that you have a cell signal, so it doesn't really matter if you're if your switch and your wireless or your controller or your internet connection, doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if it goes down, but it doesn't matter as far as getting this information back in the console or back to the cloud, because you have that data flows back across that cell signal. So if you lose connectivity, chances are it's definitely it's going to be power.
Right, and the sensor is going to, and if it's just the connection, or a switch or something else, you'll still be able to see the sensor and start narrowing. What I'm saying is start narrowing down to what the real problem is,
Correct.
right? So that's pretty neat. Now, is there a way to go from the cloud into the sensor? Is there a path to hop onto the sensor, like command line, and then bounce around? Or
I'm not aware of any. There may be some type of, and I don't want to say it's, there's some kind of backdoor that Aruba TAC would have to be able to get into that system. I don't know if that's possible. But no, there's nothing. I mean, everything you access is from the console. Even when you do the packet capture, you're not going to the sensor and downloading grabbing that from the sensor. It's the
right,
sensor. You request it. That the information is published to the cloud, to the console, and then you download it from the console. So there's
right.
the Aruba console, is that gateway for you to get to the sensor.
Gotcha. Now, even if you're on that same site, you still go to the cloud to get the data. You don't
Yes.
log into the box itself.
Nope.
No.
Nope. Actually, I just deployed one last week to a customer site, brand new network, just make sure everything looked right. I'll make sure that kind of validate my wireless design, that everything's looking good. Yes, it is so far. But I have one sitting right here on the other side of my laptop, in a home office, and I'm going to the Aruba cloud to get to it, even though it's sitting right over there. There's no console cable to connect to it.
So I guess one of the nice things is we have a couple of these.
Yes.
If a customer is having an issue, we deploy it,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's one of those, kind of janky issues where we need to look at it over time to
Yeah.
really determine what the problem is. And so we have a couple, we can deploy them to the customer site to help get rid of this problem,
Yes.
whether it's wired or wireless, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it also does, you can do alerting. So, if you're not just staring at the console, you can have it alert you based on the conditions you set up, as well as, it can send you a daily network report just to kind of, if you want just a summary of how things are looking, it can do that as well.
Nice. And it's a lot cheaper than having a tech sit there for 48 hours straight.
Oh yeah. I imagine, especially if you've got, depending on how remote, a single flight to a round trip to a location, you can pay for one of these sensors for a year for that.
Yeah. So speaking of which, we had a recent, very important reason to deploy one of these.
Yes.
Out to a healthcare organization who we won't name, that was having some problems.
Yep. They were having some pretty significant wireless issues, and due to the COVID-19 lockdown, especially with this particular location, there was no on-site availability. So it was. I felt pretty helpless as far as trying to give them system assistance and trying to fix it. So if we hadn't had this in place, so box this guy up, send it out to the location, they plugged it in, and I'm not telling on the people there, they're not all that tech savvy, but we're quite able to get the sensor put in place. We were able to have it connected wirelessly initially, as well as I asked them to connect it to the wired network, because we were having some very very weird DHCP issues, as well as connectivity. And so having it connected to the wired, having the wired port connected, I was able to able to test the the LAN connectivity, as well as DHCP and DNS, to kind of rule out those those services, from a general network side standpoint. And after quite a bit of troubleshooting, getting the PCAPs, and looking at those, we were able to determine that there was an issue with the network interface, or the NIC on a controller. And if we hadn't had the sensor in place, we really wouldn't have known for sure, because, like I said, these are users complaining about their connectivity issues. We didn't know where these users were going. We didn't, the reporting on this was, it was happening on certain devices. We weren't sure just how widespread it was. Like I said, we didn't know what areas they were in. Maybe they were in back in areas where there wasn't supposed to be, that great a wireless coverage. We're able to determine the issue, put together a proposed solution, executed, and immediately we're able to see the difference that solution provided, or that change to the network interface, how that allowed for better wireless connectivity. And I'm happy to say that as of even today, everything is all green, smiley faces. So that was really good, and it to be able to get that information in that type of lockdown situation, where there was, who knows how long it would have taken to be able to figure something like that without having to go inside. So it was extremely helpful.
Sure. Without it, we would have been playing whack-a-mole, trying to just try different things and hope it didn't break further. And
there's a lag. Every time you make any type of change, you have to wait to hear back, and there's your on-site contact has to get to other people who may also poll other folks, and it can sometimes take a day or more to get really good information back. And where the sensor, we knew within 5 minutes.
I was going to say 5 minutes. We were watching it go from red to green, and
exactly, it looked better. And then over time, we were able to completely validate that as a fix.
Nice.
Yeah.
All from the comfort of your living room, your kitchen.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So, anything we missed on the? I'm going to still call it a CAPE sensor. It's the Aruba User Experience Insight Sensor. They didn't even come up with a good acronym.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just start calling it Bob.
Call it Bob, yeah. Microsoft Bob.
Oh, never mind.
Connotations there. No, I think I was just looking at the console, just making sure that I think we covered everything. The fact that you can go in and make changes to your thresholds, you can monitor certain networks, or not monitor the networks. You can set, we were having connectivity issues even when we set a static IP. So back to that customer issue, if it had been a DHCP problem, then we should have seen that go away with the static IP, and we didn't. So that was more validation or more good troubleshooting info to kind of,
get us going in the right direction.
Right. Some of the signs were pointing to DHCP, and that helped to eliminate that as an issue. So
nice. All right. So there you go. Very helpful, especially for these remote support engagements. If you want to learn more, please give us a call, reach out to your rep, send an email to sales@ctgva.com. If you need us to come and help you with one of these, again, we have them. We can deploy them. We can help you out. Just give us a call. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.